Republicans have a huge advantage, and Democrats, conversely, have a huge disadvantage that if they want to win elections going forward, especially presidential elections, they're going to have to figure out a way to deal with. Now, the advantage that Republicans have is that they are an incredibly cohesive group of people, whereas Democrats are much more a loose coalition of interest groups. And that's a real problem, because as we've seen in this past election, some of those interest groups, because they are also very childish and immature and can't see the forest for the trees, they voted against their own self-interest because they were angry that they didn't get everything that they wanted. And so they ended up helping to elect someone who is going to be the exact opposite of everything that they claim to stand for. Now, the Republican Party, you don't have people leaving that reservation, and they come out and vote. And Republicans don't have to worry, as Democrats do, about certain segments of their coalition throwing a fit and not coming out to vote. They all come out to vote. They are very party loyal. And part of the reason is because they don't actually care about issues. I know they pretend to care about issues, but in reality, they don't. Donald Trump can literally take any position on any issue one day and take the exact opposite position the next day. He won't lose any supporters, and they won't care. They will just start defending the new position. That's just how they are. They don't care about policy. It's a cult of personality. And even beyond Trump, once Trump is gone, to a large degree, now it won't be quite the stranglehold that it is right now, but to a very large degree, those people are going to continue to march in lockstep. A big reason for that is because they all get their information from the same place. Now, they might not all get their information from Fox News, but there's no difference between Fox News, Newsmax, OAN, the podcast world, talk radio. They're all saying the exact same thing. The message from one place to the next is exactly the same. So these people's brains are all wired together, interconnected like a hive mind. You know, there is no independent thought on the right. They all take their marching orders from these information sources. None of them can put together an independent thought. They just think what everybody else thinks, and everybody else thinks whatever it is they hear on Fox News or any other place. And so Republicans don't have to worry about these people thinking for themselves, making political points by not voting or voting for the other side because they're mad that they didn't get their way on some policy issue. They don't care about policy. So that's not a factor. That's not an issue. Now, Democrats, on the other hand, as I said, they are much more a coalition of different interest groups. And to a large extent, and Kamala Harris, her campaign was really handicapped by this. They feel that they can't alienate anyone for fear that one of these groups might not show up, and that will be the reason that they lose. The problem is, you know, some of these interest groups are really fringe interest groups. And when you try to placate them for fear of losing their votes, then Republicans are then able to successfully tie you to those fringe groups. Even though some of those fringe groups, really, they're very fringe, and very few people in the Democratic Party actually agree with those fringe positions. You know, they don't represent anywhere close to a majority of the Democrat coalition. Yet, because Democrat politicians feel that they can't alienate those people in any way for fear of losing their votes, Fox News and these propaganda machines are able to just tie Democratic politicians to those fringe groups and those fringe positions. And when, Kamala Harris or whatever other Democrat is asked about those fringe positions or those fringe groups, they just try to change the subject. They never denounce them. They never distance themselves from them. And that's a real problem because, again, that just further ties them to that group. And this happened on a couple of key issues in this past presidential election. And it's greatly damaging. And Democrats need to figure out a way to deal with this. What I think they should do is they need to realize where the votes are. And some of these fringe groups who will just hold the party hostage, if they don't get their way, they will stomp their feet and they will sit at home or vote for the other side to make a point. That's not where the votes are. They represent very few people in the Democrat Party. So I think what Democrats need to do is they need to be prepared to say, you know what, you people can take a hike if you don't want to support us. But we cannot afford to have our party labeled by our association with these fringe groups. The votes that matter are in the middle, the gettable votes. There are many more gettable votes in the middle of the political spectrum than there are in the hard, far, fringy left. So I think a much better trade-off would be, you don't necessarily want to alienate those people. You want to keep them in the tent. You want their votes. And if those people are smart enough to realize, look, yeah, Democrats might not be perfect, but they're a hell of a lot better than the alternatives, then good, maybe keep some of those people. But if you're afraid of losing those people and you can't denounce some of their fringe positions, then you're going to get tied to those people and those positions and you're going to lose elections. It's much better to say, look, we want your votes, but we're not going to be tied to your fringe positions. We're not going to be held hostage to you and your fringe positions. We are going to make a play for the center because that's where a hell of a lot more votes are. But a lot of people in the center just felt like, maybe I don't like Trump. Maybe I don't like these MAGA Republicans. But I can't go for this fringe far left crap. And so Donald Trump and Republicans benefit by the fact that they have been able to successfully tie Democrats to these fringy far leftist kooks. That's a real problem. And that's what I think they should do. They need to grow a spine and be prepared to piss those people off. And if they want to take their ball and go home, fine. There are many more votes that can replace those fringe votes. And that's what I think Democrats should do. Make a play for those more moderate center of the road voters. There's a hell of a lot more people, and those people are much more closely aligned with the vast majority of the Democratic Party. See, that's the thing. Most Democrats are not these fringy leftists as they have been painted. They are much more close to the center than they are to the far fringy left. So we should be making a play for those center voters, not the far left voters. You got to tell those people to take a hike, or Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are going to continue to brand the entire Democratic Party by these far left fringy kook positions. I hope that Democrats wake up to this, realize this, and grow a spine. Because, in my opinion, that's what needs to be done.